confronts the Yadda Space. I'm Yadda here, let's set the pace. This is a rewatch podcast, so let's begin. Orange is the new black is where we dive in. Every episode we'll discuss, even the scenes that made us cuss. So follow me, join the spree. I try to space with two E's. Spoilers everywhere, so be warned. Super fans, please come on board. Susie's special line and all these ideas because we make it everything truly as it is. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Nah. Oh, 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 oh.
Hello, and welcome to Yadda Space. I'm Yadda, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a rewatch podcast for the Netflix TV show Orange is the New Black. That means that there may be spoilers about things that happen in the future episodes, so please be warned. This is definitely a spoiler zone. On today's episode of our Orange is the New Black rewatch, we will be discussing Season 2, Episode 11, titled Take a Break from Your Values. The IMDb synopsis for this episode says, Piper is shocked at an unexpected change in her status, and Soso's hunger strike attracts new support that takes on a religious fervor. We will also be getting our first backstories from Sister Ingalls today as well. Constantine Macrease is back again as the director of this episode. We last saw his work on episode 11 of season 1, Tall Men with Feelings, where we got some Alex backstories. He has directed 10 episodes of Orange from season 1 all the way through season 7, including some very iconic ones ahead, so we will definitely be seeing his work again. We also have Nick Jones back again as the head writer for this week's episode. We've seen his work most recently in episode 5 of season 2, Low Self-Esteem City, where we got Gloria's backstory. He has quite a few upcoming episodes as well, including Suzanne's backstory episode, People Persons in season 4, which is another standout for me, so I think it's safe to say that we're in good hands for today's episode. And as I always say, I know that there's more than one person in a writer's room, so I would like to give a shout out to the entire writing team. Thank you all for writing such a great show. You guys told the stories that were not being told, and for that, we thank you. The IMDb rating for this episode is an 8.2, but as always, at the end of this pod, I will be giving my personal episode rating for this episode, and I encourage you guys to go ahead and write your episode ratings in the comments as well, so that we can get an idea of what we the people think is actually the rating on this episode. Okay, so let's get into it. When the episode opens up, we are back at Litchfield, and we're finding out that there's a storm coming in. Apparently, they have Superstorm Wanda coming their way. Looks like a tropical storm or hurricane of some sort, but as soon as I hear Superstorm Wanda, all I can think of is my girl Wanda Maximoff from the Marvel Universe, because I'm a huge fan. Love Wanda. Y'all should go check out WandaVision if you can. Shout out Lizzie Olsen. And Marvel, you better stop playing with us and bring our girl back. But back to Litchfield, the ladies are watching the weather report on the TV, and Sophia is rightfully concerned about her family's safety, but Sister Ingalls reminds her, they're gonna be all right. They have a roof over their heads. You gotta worry about people like poor Jimmy, our inmate with dementia who was released on quote-unquote compassionate release. That poor lady is probably still roaming the streets, probably with nowhere to stay, and yeah, I would be concerned for her also. Over at another table, we're with Soso, Yoga Jones, Leanne, and Angie, as Soso is trying to get their demands down for their hunger strike. First on their list is they want the B-dorm bathroom repaired, because yeah, those showers still have poop coming out of them. They also want to put restrictions on using the shoe as a punishment, and also they want some non-toxic laundry detergent, which I think all fair things. But as the ladies are talking through and finalizing their demands, Sister Ingalls has had enough. She's like, can y'all be quiet? We're trying to hear the TV. But that's when Yoga Jones, who already has a short fuse because she's been doing this hunger strike for a week already, tells Sister Ingalls, I think this would be important to you too, sister. Word around prison is that Sister Ingalls is here because she changed herself to a flagpole at a nuclear test site. But Sister Ingalls clears that up for the ladies, telling them that no, it was actually for trespassing at a nuclear facility. Apparently the flagpole thing was a whole other demonstration at the School for the Americas. Sister Ingalls tells the ladies, listen, that's all in my past. I am old. I have low blood sugar. She's like, I do not have the time, patience, or ability to do this hunger strike with you guys. That is no longer my truth. But Leanne just calls Sister Ingalls a pussy. Like, okay, rationalize it however you want, but what you're doing right now is being a pussy. And that sends us into our very first Sister Ingalls backstory scene. It looks like it's the very beginning of her time as a nun because she's getting all these instructions on what to do and what not to do, and she's very much younger. The one question that young Sister Ingalls has for the more senior nun is, how long until Jesus speaks to me? She explains to her that she speaks to him, but the conversations are kind of one way so far. And it seems like she's getting a little bit jealous because the other nuns talk about how Jesus speaks to them all the time. The senior nun tells Sister Ingalls that Christ only comes to those who are humble in their devotion to the Lord. She pulls out a JFK line on her and tells her, focus not on what Christ can do for you, but on what you can do for Christ. When the senior nun walks away, who we find out her name is Sister Constance, Sister Ingalls overhears two other young nuns talking about a rally against the war. Apparently people are going out to protest the war in Vietnam, and these nuns want in. And at first Sister Ingalls is kind of hesitant to get involved because she's like, I don't think we're supposed to be doing this. But the other young nuns tell her, no, she's actually approved it, so we're all good. So Sister Ingalls is in. Back at Litchfield, we're in Fig's office as she's working on some planning for her husband's campaign. Apparently, she's trying to flip the whole rape situation with Mendez and Daya into something that she can use for her husband's benefit. And Caputo tells her, it looks like this sexual violation is really working out for you, isn't it? Word. But Fig insists she's on the right side of this. She's like, hey, at least we started a dialogue. Fig then tells Caputo that she recognizes his role in this whole rape situation and how he helped to get it all cleared up. And while Caputo would like to see that recognition in the form of a check for $200 or $300, Fig's like, yeah, not that, but you know what? We will fix the B-dorm bathroom. And apparently the warden is going to be sending them some new Riot gear, which is an early foreshadowing of what's to come. But come to find out, the gear is not exactly new and not exactly for them specifically. It's just a leftover crap from Max because apparently Max is getting new gear. So, hand-me-downs for minimum. Elsewhere in the prison, we're with Piper and Daya as she's getting her new comic approved for the next edition of the newsletter. She apologizes to Piper for the fact that the comic is not very funny this week. It's more of a commentary on her current situation. It looks like Daya is the pregnant horse, and she's telling this hawk that she doesn't have anyone to help her with this, and she's got to shoulder this burden alone, which is definitely something that's going to be true as well, but we'll get there. Soso then joins them to deliver her list of demands to Piper, who immediately is like, yeah, no, absolutely not. We are not putting these demands in the paper. You're not getting me wrapped up in your stuff. No, thank you. Piper doesn't think that Mr. Healy would ever approve it anyway, so it's a waste of time. The papers are already laid out, so no. After Soso kind of begs her, Piper takes pity on her and decides, fine, I'll give it a shot. I'll put it in, but no promises. It'll probably end up in the trash. But Soso's thankful for Piper even trying and tells her that history will remember her for this, even though she still doesn't trust Piper personally, which, valid. Soso then goes on to say that revolution makes for strange bedfellows, huh? Which, yeah, absolutely it does. Honestly, that's my favorite part of the revolution that goes on in season 5. All the new and different combinations of people that we see working together and hanging out together and helping each other. Very interesting combinations, which I thought was kind of cool. So yeah, revolution does make for strange bedfellows, indeed. But as Soso starts to prattle on, as she does, about her meaning behind the word bedfellows, Piper stops her and is like, yo, have you heard the Gandhi quote, speak only if it improves upon the silence? In other words, if you have nothing of importance to add, shut the fuck up. And Soso's in awe, like, no, I haven't. What's the context? Like, oh my goodness, new information. Tell me more. As she starts to go on and on about how she loves Gandhi and about how he was a guy who knew how to revolt. Those two walk off with Soso still running her mouth a mile a minute, but Daya continues down the hallway and runs into Bennett. And he asks Daya if she has a minute to talk to him, but she asks him, is that an order? To which he says no. So she's like, then no, I don't have time, and walks off. Looks like she's still pretty upset with him not claiming his child, which, being in her shoes, is valid. Over in the library, we're with Poussey as V is coming up to her talking about, man, that was a nasty fall you took. Like, girl, it was not no fall. You know what you did. Sure, she didn't get her own hands dirty, but obviously she's the one who puppeted Suzanne to do that crap to Poussey. And Poussey rightfully does not want to talk to V. Instead, she tries to ignore her. But V persists and tries to offer Poussey some medicine to help her with her pain, talking about, well, you know, we're neighbors. Neighbors help each other out. And then she goes on to say, well, actually, we're more than neighbors. You live in my house. I cannot stand V. But I love Poussey. When she finally responds to V, she asks her if she came back to prison on purpose or if it's because on the outside she's too weak for anyone to take seriously. Word. Running with kids, manipulating. Does anybody take V seriously on the outside? I don't know. She's a vampire. And Pusey calls her out on it. She's like, oh, just because some kids think you're hot shit? You're like a pedophile without the sex. But, you know, there's a little bit of that too, but we'll get there. Pusey tells V that she bets the real players laugh in her face, completely calling V out. That must have struck a nerve with V, because the next thing we see is her pushing Pusey up against the library shelves with a book cart, talking about how much worse do you want this to get? And Pusey, as always, stands her ground, telling V, listen, what else you got? I don't have anything else left to lose. And I gotta say, I respect that about Pusey. She's been beaten down, isolated, but she never backs down from V. I respect it. In the next scene, we're over in Mr. Healy's office as Piper's bringing him the prison newsletter for final approval. Apparently, Mr. Healy's put an ad out in the paper for his Safe Place group. You know, his little group therapy session for the inmates. The one where he's not offering them anything but still wants them to show up. Maybe they will, or maybe not. Piper tells him, listen, it's a little bit ambiguous, you know? The girls don't really know what it's for. It sounds like a play group. But Healy thinks being ambiguous about it is fine because according to him, the word therapy scares people. Mr. Healy also shares with Piper that he's been reading up on these psychological theories because, you know, they're constantly evolving. And you know what? Good for him. I'll give him that one. At least it seems like he's trying to do good by these women in this moment. And Piper gives him his props too, telling him thank God the theories are constantly evolving, otherwise they'd also be getting electroshock therapy for hysteria. Which hits close to home for Mr. Healy because, as we know, his mother suffered from some mental health illnesses as well, including hysteria, which you would think would make him a little bit more sympathetic to the topic, but no. He actually praises the electroshock therapy, saying it was actually pretty effective. Other articles of note in this edition of the newsletter are things like a book review, a menu for the cafeteria. Apparently they did a workup on C.O. O'Neill and their guards, their people too section this time. And it looks like Soso's hunger strike demands made it in there. Clearly, Mr. Healy did not take a look at the entire paper. He was only concerned about his Safe Place ad because he ends up approving the newsletter without reading anything else. And so it looks like those hunger strike demands are going to be distributed to the prison because Mr. Healy asked C.O. Donaldson to go ahead and make 100 copies. So that's that. Before Piper heads out of Mr. Healy's office, she asks him to sign off on a new request for somebody to be added to her call list. Somebody like Alex Voss. And Mr. Healy is immediately like, really? But Piper insists, hey, it's not a lesbian thing. Chill out. And even if it was, Mr. Healy, what business is it of yours? When Piper explains to Mr. Healy that she just wants to talk to Alex for some closure, making sure to add on that, you know, psychologically, I think that's pretty productive. Mr. Healy has no choice but to go ahead and sign off because, you know, he's in his helpful mode. He's trying to be psychologically responsible. Before Mr. Healy allows Piper to leave, he tells her that she needs to write a feeling down for the feelings jar. And what feeling does Piper write? Grateful. In the next scene, we see Red walking with purpose. She looks like she is on the warpath. Towards who? Apparently Frida. She walks over to her and basically accuses her of selling her out. Red thinks that Frida is the one who told V about the greenhouse and the tunnel. And Red is ready to beat her ass over it. And Frida actually looks scared, which I'm shocked to see because we know Frida can handle herself. Thankfully, Nikki is able to pull Red off of Frida and tries to go and calm her down in the bathroom. Nikki tells Red, listen, maybe V just put 2 and 2 together. You know, it's not like they're being super secret about this whole thing. And that's when Black Cindy comes out of the bathroom stall talking about word. It's not like y'all don't talk about this shit at normal volume in public spaces or anything. Like, y'all are talking about it right now. Anybody could have figured that shit out. Nikki tries to defend herself to Cindy, talking about, this is not even your bathroom. But Cindy insists that she can take a shit wherever the fuck she wants. And also, they're doing renovations in the black bathrooms right now. So that's confirmation that that's finally happening. Red tries to appeal to Cindy's conscience, talking about, why are you bringing drugs into this place? Don't you remember what happened to Trisha? But as we know, Cindy's conscience is not that great. So she is not fazed by Red's questioning of her at all. Instead, Cindy tells Red that drugs in the prison is not the craziest thing to ever happen. And by the way, it's kind of wild that Red thinks that she can open a road and say that only white people can drive on it. Which is a point. Never really thought about it that way, but yeah, I can see through Cindy's eyes how she got there. Cindy tells Red, that ain't gonna fly. This is America. The bathrooms may be segregated, but the market is free. Before Cindy heads out the bathroom, she turns to Red and says, oh, but FYI, someone did rat you out. It was Boo. And then she turns and says, puff out. Because, you know, she's got her 2 cute little afro puffs on her head. So at this point, Red and Nikki know it was Boo who betrayed them. Over at the loading docks, we see Caputo and a couple of guards receiving the hand-me-down riot gear from the Max prison. Caputo makes a comment saying, hopefully we'll never have to use it, which we'll get there. When C.O. Bell comes out and joins them, she distributes the newest edition of the newsletter to them saying, "O'Neill, you're famous," since he got a write-up. I also see down in the critics corner that apparently Cindy did a movie review on Coming to America saying that it gets 5 stars off the bat. Which, as a classic, I'll co-sign that. When Caputo flips over the newsletter and notices the hunger strike demands, he's like, what the hell is this? Because apparently he didn't know about that, and Caputo walks off looking like he's about to get to the bottom of it. The next thing that we see, he's walking up on Soso and her group talking about, all right, who's the leader? She insists that they're a leaderless movement, meaning they're all leaders. And so Caputo takes that to mean that she's the leader. But Soso's like, I'd rather you not consider me the leader, thanks. Caputo then leads with the positive, telling them that, hey, listen, one of your demands is that the B-dorm bathroom gets fixed. Well, that's done. And the girls are like, yay, we did it. But Caputo insists, no, you didn't. It was already in progress. Then Caputo asks for clarity on the restrictions of the shoe that they want. And so Yoga Jones explains that there is no accountability for it. People are just sent down there for no reason for any period of time. It's so arbitrary. And she even cites her friend, Janae, saying that she's been sent down there like every other month. But Caputo insists that Janae brought that on herself. And there is a system in place, but they don't have to explain to the inmates how that works. But then he goes on to tell the ladies that it just so happens that Janae is getting out today, making sure to emphasize that this has nothing to do with their little hunger strike. It was already happening. Caputo's like, listen, I'm addressing your serious issues. Is there anything else? And that's when Sister Ingalls comes up behind him saying that she has an issue. Apparently her cause is the quality of senior care at the prison, which is a worthy cause because we saw the lack of care and then the dumping of Jimmy, which was horrible. Sister Ingalls tells Caputo that so-called compassionate release in lieu of care is completely unacceptable. She goes on to basically yell at Caputo that they cannot dump sick old ladies out on the street. She says it's unconscionable, it's inhumane, and it's illegal. And good for her for standing up for that because she is right. Caputo's got nothing to say to Sister Ingalls in response. He just walks off. But he knows this just got real because that is an issue that needs to be addressed. After Caputo walks off, Sister Ingalls confirms to the ladies as well as the audience that this is for Jimmy. And good for her. In another Sister Ingalls backstory scene, we see a young Sister Ingalls along with 2 other young nuns getting out of what I guess is like a hippie's little van. It looks like they're just coming back from a protest of some sort. Sister Ingalls is saying how she thought nunning might be kind of boring, but that was pretty exciting. But apparently they're in trouble because Sister Constance wants to see them immediately. The nun who said that Sister Constance co-signed them going to the rally only actually co-signed maybe in spirit. Meaning not at all, actually. Sister Ingalls is like, I cannot believe I fell in with the bad nuns. And so the main quote unquote bad nun is like, listen, we do penance all day, every day anyways. At least now we can do it for something that we're proud of. We have no husbands, no jobs. She goes on to say, if we don't fight to make the world a better place, who will? And honestly, I respect it. What's the harm in the nuns using their time and their voices to go fight for something good for humanity? It kind of seems like that's what they should be doing. Back at the prison, we're in the cafeteria and we see that Janae is back and Black Cindy is messing with her, talking about she heard that they got a plaque on the wall at the shoe that says reserved for Watson. And that definitely struck a nerve with Janae because she screams at Cindy to shut the fuck up. She's got no idea what it's like, and so she shouldn't be acting like she knows. You know, with Janae being fresh out of there, she definitely looks like she has been traumatized. It's actually really sad to see. As V and the ladies try to calm Janae down, we hear Pennsatucky come in the cafeteria announcing a sign-up sheet for the Safe Place meeting. She says it's the last call and looks like she's got some names on there, so good for her. It looks like she's got some people to agree to show up. When Janae asks what's Safe Place, Cindy tells her that it's Healy's new thing. She calls it a snitching school, someplace where you go and sound off on people and then he'll give you a shot off your record. And so I don't think that's actually what's happening, but that's the word around prison. So I guess that's how Tiffany got people to sign up. When Tiffany comes over to V's table to ask if they want to sign up for Safe Place, V answers for the whole table saying, no, we're not interested. But Tiffany's like, well, how do you know? The bald Black girl signed up, you know, Poussey, and that seemed to get the table's attention. But even still, Cindy doubles down and tells Tiffany, nah, they're not interested. Once Tiffany walks away from the table, we see Suzanne ask V, hey, do you want me to sign up? Because I can go and keep an eye on her, meaning Poussey. And V tells Suzanne, yeah. You go do that. That's some good thinking. Lord, I'm not a fan of that scene either, but we'll get there. And so Suzanne calls Tiffany back so she can sign up for Safe Space, except she doesn't call her Pennsatucky. She calls her Pennsabama. I guess same vibe, right? Across town, we're with Larry, Polly, and Polly's husband, Pete, as Pete is ranting about Alaska and his trip and how nobody wants to hear about it on a radio interview or anything. But Polly interrupts his rant to tell him, listen, we gotta talk to you about something. Is now the time, Polly? Well, I guess now's as good as time as any. Once Pete sits down for this talk, Polly starts by telling him, listen, while you were away, Larry and I spent a lot of time together. And Larry continues by saying, and you know, they grew really close, much closer than before. And Pete says, listen, I know what you're gonna say, I'm not an idiot, but Pete does not know what's going on. He thinks they're trying to pitch a threesome to him, but no, bro. That is not what's happening here. And that's when Polly rips off the Band-Aid and tells Pete point blank, I'm leaving you. And as Pete starts to get rightfully upset about this whole situation, Polly's like, listen, Pete, at least admit that you abandoned me once I had the baby. And that's true. He did. Polly's like, at least Larry fucking shows up. And that is also true. Polly's like, I get it. The situation sucks, but this is real. Pete insists that the whole reason why he even went away was so that he could be a better person for his son. And that's when Larry stands up eye to eye with Pete, telling him, that's not true. You actually went away because, and before he's able to finish his sentence, Pete punches him right in the face. Again, rightfully so, because who the hell do you think you are, guy? Like M'Baku in Black Panther, you cannot speak here. It is not your place. Pete tells Larry, don't tell me what I know, before walking off. Well, at least they had the balls to tell one person in this whole situation. Polly should have had the balls enough to tell Piper to her face when she saw her last episode. Back at the prison, we see Daya walk up to Aleida and she's like, you got a minute? Aleida immediately is on the defensive. She's like, oh, you can't find your other mommy anywhere? The way Aleida reminds me of my mother. Her jealousy, my God. Come on, Aleida, you could do better than that. Aleida tells Daya that she should be walking on air the way this shit turned out. You know, with Porn Stash being arrested for being the father of her baby, which we know is not true. And Daya's starting to feel guilt about it because she's like, listen, there's a dude going to jail because of me. And that is true. Aleida's like, yeah, whatever. At least you and Bennett get to go off into the sunset together. But Daya says she can't even fucking look at him. Daya is visibly upset and she starts to cry, saying she's so fucking stupid. And girl, I'm not gonna argue with you there. These were not the best of choices that you've made. But Aleida immediately jumps into mommy mode, and you know I love to see it when she actually mothers Daya. She jumps up and hugs her, saying, you know, it's all right. A lot of stupid people still live full and productive lives. Like, it's okay that you're dumb. You gonna be all right. Comforting her in a way only Aleida can. Aleida goes on to tell Daya that at least she knows she's gonna get paid, because apparently if you get raped by a guard, you get to sue the government. And also, since she's got a baby coming, Aleida says she can get child support from Mendez and extortion money from Bennett. Damn, Aleida's ready to scam both these guys. Aleida tells Daya that this rape is the best thing that ever happened to her. Dear Lord. Daya is still upset and crying, talking about, well, what happens when the baby ends up with no daddy? She calls it just another fucking barrio baby. You know, just another statistic. But Aleida tells her not to worry about that. I mean, look at her. She was raised in an untraditional setting, and look at how great she turned out. Did she, though? She's in prison with her mother, pregnant by a guard. I don't know if she turned out all that great, at least not on paper. And as we know, it's about to get worser, but we'll get there. Aleida ends her little pep talk to Daya by telling her, just don't forget about me when those checks start coming in. Because, of course, Aleida's always got her agenda. In the next scene, we are in Alex's apartment as she gets a phone call from Piper. And Piper doesn't even start the conversation with any pleasantries. No hi, no how you doing. She's like, listen, so you said you tried to get me the same kind of deal that you got, but what you failed to explain is why after you coached me on what to say in my testimony, you decided to do the exact opposite thing. Like, what the fuck was that? And so Alex explains, listen, I was facing way more time than you. And apparently her lawyer told her that if she testified against Kubra, that he would for sure be going away to prison and she would be able to get out of prison that same day. But apparently he was wrong on at least one of those things. Sure, Alex got out, but Kubra did not get sent to prison. He's free. Apparently because of some mishandled evidence, the whole thing was labeled a mistrial. And so Piper is rightfully like, wait, so I'm the only one who went to prison? And yeah, girl, it looks that way, which really sucks because it seems like she's the one who was like the least involved in this whole thing. Alex does not have time for Piper's woes. She's like, listen, I got bigger problems. I'm out and so is Kubra after I've testified against him. Like, she's low-key, high-key scared. And rightfully so. It seems like Cooper is a pretty dangerous dude. And it's not like she's in witness protection or anything. She's got no surveillance around her apartment. She is on her own. That's when we find out that Alex's apartment is in Queens, and Piper's like, oh my gosh, I was just there. Like, girl, this is not a social call, but I get it. Had she known, it probably would have been pretty cool to see Alex out in the real world. Piper tells Alex that she should not be in New York. She needs to freaking leave the country or something. But according to Alex, a part of her release deal is that she is not allowed to leave the state. So they kind of screwed her there because she is definitely in danger, and staying in the state does not seem like a safe move. Just before Piper's phone time cuts off, Alex asks Piper to add her to her visitation list, you know, so they can talk in person. And Piper agrees. Once Alex is off the phone with Piper, she gets a knock at her door. And so she immediately starts looking for a weapon and grabs a knife out of her kitchen drawer. And I don't blame her. You don't know who the hell that is. But apparently it's just a disgruntled neighbor here to complain about the way she throws out her recyclables. And so when Alex realizes that's all it is, she decides to open the door for him and to talk to him face to face, which I don't care if he is just a neighbor. You don't need to open the door. I would still be talking to him through the door. But anyways, she opened the door, and once he realized that she's actually not who he was looking for, and actually her name is Alex Voss, he informs her that some sus guys were looking for her. And so Alex immediately closes the door in his face on that note. But girl, I don't know why you opened the door in the first place. I guess at least now she knows that Cooper and his guys know where she lives. And that ain't good. Back over at Polly's apartment, Larry is icing his face after that punch from Pete while telling Polly, well, at least he was here so they could tell him together. He thinks that that was the right thing to do. Really, sir? When do you plan on telling your ex-fiance? I mean, I know it's coming, but y'all should have been told her. It seems like Larry is aware that Piper's figured it out, though, because he tells Polly that, hey, well, Piper knows, Pete knows, so I guess we're doing this. And then they have some playful banter that honestly I don't really care about. I'm sorry, y'all. I told y'all I do not like their storyline. But anyways, the scene ends with them kissing, so good for them. Back at the prison, we're in Healy's safe place meeting, and it looks like he's actually got a group of girls here. He's got about, 7 girls here today? 3 of them being Tiffany, Blanca, and also Poussey. Mr. Healy is encouraging the ladies to talk about their problems instead of turning to violence all the time. He says it'll help them to process and realize that they're not alone. Healy then passes a lightly decorated talking stick to Blanca and explaining that whoever holds the talking stick gets to share. And so he asks her, how do you feel? And so Blanca responds very unconvincingly, I feel good. I'm happy. With a completely monotone voice, not selling it at all. And so Mr. Healy calls her out on it, saying, I don't believe you. And in order for Safe Place to work, everybody's going to have to be really honest about how they're feeling. When Healy passes Blanca a feelings chart to help her find the words for her feelings, Blanca says, you know what? I feel really depressed, which is the complete opposite of feeling happy. But okay, girl, I'm glad you figured it out. And Mr. Healy's like, good. But Poussey speaks without the talking stick, telling Mr. Healy that you just made her say that. And Pennsatucky calls Poussey out for talking without the talking stick. And Poussey's like, what's the big deal? You don't have one. You're talking. But Tiffany says, it doesn't apply to me. I'm the group facilitator. But Mr. Healy quickly lets her know, no, actually, you're not. Which apparently is news to Tiffany because she's like, I'm not? And we see her give Mr. Healy the mean side eye as she slumps into her chair and puts on her hoodie up. What I've noticed in this show is that whenever Pennsatucky puts her hoodie on, it seems like she is not in a good way. Her feelings have been hurt. She's feeling disrespected. She's feeling slighted. She's not having a good time whenever we see her hoodie up. So I kind of hate to see it. That's when Mr. Healy gets up and hands the stick over to Poussey, but she insists that she's got nothing to say. When Mr. Healy presses Poussey to give an answer, she's like, okay, I feel bored. But Tiffany tells her, that's not a feeling. It's not on the feelings chart. So Poussey snatches the feelings chart, looks at it, and is like, all right, fine, I feel mad. And when Mr. Healy presses her as to why she feels mad, she's like, I feel mad because you said I can't feel bored. Like, why are we jumping through hoops here, man? That's when Suzanne walks in saying sorry for being late as she goes and sits down with her eyes glued to Poussey, clearly trying to intimidate her. And it seems like it works because Poussey's like, I wasn't saying anything. Poussey starts to get defensive and asks Mr. Healy, what's the point of all this anyways? And he tells her the point is to get in touch with your feelings. But Poussey says, did it ever occur to you that maybe we don't want to get in touch with our feelings? That actually feeling our feelings might make it impossible to survive in here? Which is probably a really sad fact of life in prison. I'd imagine, yeah, you'd probably have to dissociate and get some space between you and your feelings in order to survive in there. Otherwise, I'm sure it would be really unbearable. Mr. Healy tells Poussey earnestly that he's just trying to look out for her, that everybody in there's got to look out for each other. And he goes on to say that it looks like she got hurt. What happened to her? Suzanne really zeroes in on Poussey then, but Poussey simply replies, nothing happened. She just slipped in the shower. Totally random. And we see Suzanne on the side nodding with approval like, yeah, good. You better not talk. Ugh, I hate that she's intimidating Poussey in this way. Elsewhere in the prison, we see Sister Ingalls trying to step up the whole hunger strike movement, telling Soso that they need to contact people from the outside at this point. They need outside eyes and voices on this to help them. She goes on to tell Soso that she needs to contact the Women's Religious Leadership Conference, as well as the National Catholic Social Justice Lobby, because according to Sister Ingalls, they've got connections with the local newspapers, so they will definitely help to get the word out. As the hunger strike ladies continue to strategize, in walk two COs with some bribe pizzas, fanning them so they smell really good, you know, trying to entice the ladies to eat and break their strike. And Angie is the first one to break, talking about why are we punishing ourselves when we're already being punished, as she picks up a piece of pizza and starts licking it. Leanne picks up a slice too and stuffs it in her mouth as Sister Ingalls gives us the title of this week's episode as she tells them, it's okay, girls, take a break from your values. Do we take breaks from our values? I don't think that's great, but totally on brand for Leanne and Angie. In the next backstory scene, we're with Sister Ingalls as she's about to break into the nuclear facility. I believe this is the crime that got her sent to Litchfield in the first place. She's boasting about how if they get arrested tonight, this will be her 14th arrest, which is more than Sister Joanne and more than Sister Patricia. So I guess she thinks she's more of a badass than them because she's been arrested more times. Is that pride? Is a nun supposed to have that kind of pride? I don't know. So Sister Ingalls and the two people that she's with not only broke into this nuclear facility, but they're putting graffiti on the walls and getting irritated at the fact that nobody has come to stop them yet. It looks like they're looking for attention, or at least Sister Ingalls is. She wrote on the wall, "Woe to the kingdom of blood," and apparently she brought 2 pints of costume blood with her just for effect. She literally says the pictures will look spectacular. And the guy she's with is like, I don't think you're doing this in the right spirit. Yeah, I don't think so either. It looks like Sister Ingalls just wants the fame and the glory of all this. And Sister Ingalls has a really nasty, holier-than-thou attitude towards these guys. She tells them that without her, they're just a couple of hippies on welfare. She says she's the one who gives them credibility. Rude. Who the hell does she think she is? It looks like Sister Ingalls has moved on from protesting with the nuns because on this particular night, she's out here with 2 guys. And with that, she asks one of the guys, Jean, to start snapping her picture as she theatrically starts throwing the blood onto the wall and posing. Lord, some nun. Back at the prison in a blink if you miss it scene, we see a group of guards doing a little hostage situation drill with their newfound riot gear. Apparently in their practice, they're taught that they do not negotiate for hostages, which is a very different policy than what we'll see in season 5, but we'll get there. Elsewhere outside on prison grounds, we see Janae still looking very much shaken up from being in the SHU for so long when Yoga Jones comes up to her to tell her that she's glad to see her back. Yoga Jones goes on to tell Janae that the treatment that she's been receiving inspired her to join the hunger strike. But we know Janae, she's definitely got a chip on her shoulder, and for reasons, but we can't erase the fact that the chip is there. And so of course she tells Yoga Jones, you know, so what? She says that she is not there to make her feel good about herself. She tells her that if she's got guilt about something, that's not her problem. Which, sure, valid, but also totally uncalled for. Like, Yoga Jones is trying to be a friend. She's trying to be supportive. And honestly, I don't think that she deserved that. Apparently, in this moment, Janae does not care. She goes on to tell Yoga Jones that she does not feel like being her token black friend and asks Yoga Jones to not talk to her anymore. Which feels really cold to me because I don't think that's what Yoga Jones is about. She seems to genuinely care for Janae. So for Janae to figuratively spit in Yoga Jones' face right now, I think it's uncalled for. But Yoga Jones takes it and walks away. Elsewhere outside on prison grounds, we see Boo coming out of a shed with a new inmate in orange. Looks like she's taken her under her wing, so to speak, when she runs into Red. And we know Red is not happy with her. Red tells Boo that the greenhouse has been closed for a while because there's a health hazard that needs to be sorted out. And Boo's like, what do you mean a health hazard? What's going on? And that's when Red tells her there's a rat. As we see Nikki, Gina, and Norma roll up behind Boo in a bit of a threatening way. But they're not here to fight Boo. They're here to excommunicate her. Red throws her one last package of Jolly Ranchers and tells her to enjoy them because it'll be the last favor that she ever does for her. But Boo reacts seemingly unfazed. She says sarcastically to Red, oh, so I guess I'm out of the family. What a shame, since our relationship has always involved such a high degree of mutual respect. Which I get where she's coming from because Red for sure was stunning her that night of the family dinner. So I get it, but I don't think that being a lone wolf is what you want to be in a prison situation. Boo says fuck your Jolly Ranchers and kicks them back over towards Red, telling her that there are other groups in this prison with way better perks. And Red immediately knows what Boo is talking about, saying, oh, so you'd rather eat at V's table. And Boo is basically like, yeah, and what? What do you have to offer besides some skincare products and some candy? She even insults the other girls, talking about your gang looks like a bunch of half-price garbage pail kids. And she's not wrong. Boo calls Red a joke. And Red is like, fine, I'll be that. I'm sure you'll be better off on your own, before she and her little gang of garbage pail kids walk off. And Boo's left standing there unfazed, talking about, yeah, whatever. Boo's got Boo, before she picks her Jolly Ranchers up off the ground, puts them in her pocket, and says, fuck. Because I think she realizes that she's kind of screwed here. V don't have loyalty to nobody, least of all Boo. So I hope Boo does have Boo, because she's basically on her own right now. Over in the rec room, we're with Piper, as she's apparently shared with Nikki about Alex's whereabouts and situation. And Nikki's like, why do you care? She literally screwed you over in Chicago. And she did. But Nikki figures it must be just a part of their dynamic, like spy versus spy. Piper insists that Alex should have some kind of protection, but Nikki reminds her that the system does not care and ain't nobody trying to do extra work, so she is not surprised that they have not given Alex any kind of protection. Nikki switches topics and tells Piper that speaking of the system not wanting any extra work, apparently their electrical team has been assigned to put sandbags around the lake this week because of the incoming storm. So that little nugget is setting us up for the last couple of episodes this season. That's when Fig walks into the rec room telling the guards they need to confiscate the markers and the poster board and things that Soso's using to make protest signs. Sister Ingalls stands up and almost falls down because she's a little woozy from not eating, you know? But she stands up and tells Fig, you know, we have a right to freedom of speech. But Fig quickly reminds her, you did, and then you broke the law. Like, where do you think you are right now? Which, okay, fine, but it feels kind of cold. Fig is on the warpath because her next stop is over to Piper to tell her that her little newsletter experiment in free expression is over. Caputo does not approve of what Fig is doing. He's like, what do you want me to do, force feed them? And she's basically like, yeah, kinda. But apparently legally, he cannot do that unless they're unconscious. To which Fig tells him, fine, get them while they're sleeping. Fig tells Caputo that they have a responsibility to feed these women 3 square meals a day, and she is a defender of women. I know she feels that way, but it's really kind of gray for me with her in these early seasons. In the next scene, we're in another Sister Ingalls backstory scene, and she's getting reprimanded for her last little demonstration, and she thinks that's unfair. She's like, listen, I was on the cover of the New York Times. To which the priest that's speaking to her tells her that's like the whole point. This is not about service to God. It's about you. He calls her a narcissist. Which, maybe. She does have a lot of pride. The priest brings up the fact that Sister Ingalls timed that protest with the release of her book. Apparently she has a book out called None Shall Pass, the Sister Ingalls story. So yeah, I can see how he got there. But Sister Ingalls insists that she's giving all the proceeds to charity. You know, she's doing God's work. Sister Ingalls goes on to tell the priest that she loves being a nun, and if she seems prideful, it's only because she loves the work that she's doing. And she's really good at it, by the way, according to her. There goes that pride again. The priest tells Sister Ingalls that he's sorry, but the church has decided that they can no longer support her. And Sister Ingalls is shocked. Back at the prison, we're in the greenhouse with Frida and some of the Golden Girls as she's telling them that Red is not coming and the garden club is basically over. According to her, Red would rather kill the tunnel than let V take it. I guess Red is standing on business. One of the Golden Girls says, oh, I know V, that's the one with the big hair, which we'll stick a pin in and get back to pretty soon. Overall, the Golden Girls are not happy that the club is shutting down. Frida even says a gardening club is the best thing that's happened to her since work exemption. That's when Erica says, well, maybe Red is not thinking straight, because when the pirates are boarding, you don't sink the ship, you fight the damn pirates. To which Frida's like, what are you talking about? And Erica makes it very clear. She says, well, how about I kill the bitch? Okay, we know these Golden Girls still got some fight in them, and clearly Erica is about that life, so I guess she's about to try to kill the bitch. Over in the cafeteria, Suzanne is giving the Black girls a rundown on what happened over in that safe space meeting. But when Tacy finds out that Suzanne was there to keep an eye on Poussey, she's like, you didn't have to do that. She's not a snitch. But V has had it with Tacy and how she's defending Poussey. She starts questioning Tacy's loyalty and asks her point blank, why do you keep defending her over your family? But bitch, before you got here, Poussey was the only family Tacy had in here. And frankly, she's still her truest friend in here, even Tacy, and how she's defending Poussey. She starts questioning Tacy's loyalty and asks her point blank, why do you keep defending her over your family? But bitch, before you got here, Pusey was the only family Taystee had in here. And frankly, she's still her truest friend in here, even through all this drama, because she's the only one looking out for Taystee's best interest, even if Taystee won't take her help. But Taystee insists that she's not defending Pusey. She just thinks that she's been through enough, like, leave her alone. Taystee goes on to tell V that she doesn't have to worry about her anymore. And V's like, fine, but from now on, she's your responsibility, and tells Taystee that if anything else happens with her, it's on Taystee. And then we get a rare hoodie up moment from Taystee, kind of similar to how Tiffany puts her hoodie up when she's not feeling the best. Taystee's hoodie goes up in this moment as she is clearly in distress. Over in Sister Ingalls' bunk, we see Sophia comforting her when Caputo comes in talking about what happened. Apparently, Sister Ingalls fainted. Yoga Jones and Soso are with Caputo and they're telling Sister Ingalls that this is just not safe for her anymore. But Sister Ingalls insists that's just an excuse. Sister Ingalls then goes on to ask Soso if she contacted the media, but apparently they're not interested in this story. The bigger story right now is the storm that's coming. And Sophia's confused, like, they don't care? She's a nun. But this is when it's confirmed by Caputo that she's been excommunicated from the church. At any rate, Sister Ingalls is not backing down. She tells Caputo point blank that she'll call it a day when changes are made to the way that this prison is run. But apparently that falls on deaf ears because Caputo is unmoved by that because he tells her, fine, have it your way. And the next thing that we see is Sister Ingalls being rolled down to medical in a wheelchair. But as she's being rolled through these halls, a lot of the ladies in the prison stop to watch her and they're proud of her, telling her to rock on. And you know Sister Ingalls, she is loving the attention. C.O. O'Neill asks Yoga Jones, whatever happened to humility? Like, isn't that a virtue or something? To which Yoga Jones says, yeah, it's one of the highest. People in power are always saying so. Which is an interesting line because in that framework, it seems like, of course, the people in power are always saying that. Maybe they're saying it as a way to keep people humble, keep people down, not standing in their power. I don't know. What do you think? Elsewhere in the prison, we see Piper knocking on Mr. Healy's door to find out what happened with the newsletter. She's like, this was your project. It was making positive change. Like, what's the deal? But Mr. Healy says he can't do anything about it. And as a matter of fact, she's being transferred, apparently to Virginia. According to Mr. Healy, the warden put out a memo that said that Piper, along with 12 other ladies, are going to be transferred. But Mr. Healy insists it's not because of the paper. It's not a punishment. These sorts of transfers happen all the time. Mr. Healy goes on to tell Piper that she's got maybe until Saturday, which is a problem for Piper because that's visitation day and Alex was supposed to come visit. And so Piper is rightfully shook, but we'll see how she gets out of this one. Over in the bathrooms, we see Boo go up to V telling her that she's not with Red anymore, so, you know, she's all hers. But V's like, why would I want you? She goes on to tell Boo that she does not like snitches. So, like, thanks for the intel, but I'm not working with you. Before she walks out of the bathroom, leaving Boo standing there very much alone. As we see V walking down the hall, we also see two of the Golden Girls, Frida and Erica, standing outside the bathroom, and Erica goes off behind V following her. But unfortunately, with all the twists and the turns in this prison, it looks like she must have lost her around a corner somewhere because the woman that she ends up stabbing is not V. We don't know the woman that Erica stabbed, but Erica looks up and sees V looking right at her, so she knows she missed her mark. And V knows that there's a hit out on her. The very last blink if you miss it scene that we see in this episode is Sister Ingalls down in medical as the doctors are starting to prepare to feed her, it looks like through a tube. And she insists, listen, you cannot do that. I am awake. I did not give my permission. But they don't seem to care. Caputo is overseeing it. And even though Sister Ingalls refuses, they continue as we go to our orange screen, indicating the end of the episode. As a reminder, IMDb rated this episode an 8.2. But let me think about my rating for a moment. I will say right off the bat that this is not one of my favorite episodes, so I'm sure my rating is going to be a little bit lower, but let me think. I will say that it was a bridge episode for a lot of storylines that are going to be concluding this season, like Boo betraying Red and Red finally confronting her about that, V then in turn rejecting Boo, leaving her a lone wolf. We also see further intimidation of Pusey by Suzanne at V's direction, which I do not love to see. Mr. Healy did finally get his first safe place meeting, so that's a win for him. Sister Ingalls' backstories are not my favorites of the series, but I do appreciate that they give us some more insight into her as a person. While I'd like to think that she's this righteous nun, we see a very different side of her through her backstories where she is a lot more prideful than I ever thought that she was. A character trait that I don't particularly care for. I did think it was interesting to see where Alex is and how life is going for her on the outside. The fact that she's kind of in danger and Piper's level of concern was interesting to see. And I remember watching for the first time being so disappointed that the Golden Girl Erica did not hit her mark when it came to V. I was so over V by this time. I was ready for her to just be gone. So the fact that Erica stabbed the wrong person, I was not happy about, but thankfully, spoiler alert, we won't have to deal with V for that much longer. So with all that being said, I'm definitely rating this a little bit lower. I'm gonna give this episode a 7.7. But that's just me. Don't forget to comment your favorite lines from the episode and let me know what your personal rating is for this week. Mine again is a 7.7, kind of low. But what do you think? I would love to hear yours. The next episode we will be rewatching is Season 2, Episode 12, titled It Was the Change. The IMDb synopsis for that episode says... Tensions run high as a prison power outage forces several issues to come to light. Piper finds herself compromised and is forced to think on her feet. We will also be getting some V backstories in that episode as well. Probably my least favorite set of V backstories, but we'll get there. I'll be back to get into all that with you guys next time when we revisit Season 2, Episode 12, It Was the Change. And as always, thanks for hanging with me in Yadda Space. Just so you know, I've been having such a good time chit-chatting with you guys about Orange is the New Black. I am just a neurospicy lady trying to break out of my shell. Self-promotion does not come easy, but I know it's a must to keep the podcast going. Every time you guys listen to the podcast, you like a post, you comment, or you share a post on social media, you're helping this little podcast to grow, and I can't thank you enough for the love and support. If you've been hanging out in Yadda Space for a while now and you're enjoying the Back to Litchfield podcast, please consider leaving the podcast a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform. Also, if you're able and want to go the extra mile, please consider checking out our Patreon. And be sure to follow us on your favorite social media apps for bonus content from the show, as well as updates about the podcast. And if ever you're searching for the pod, remember, it's just like the theme song says, Yadda Space with 2 E's. Thanks again for your continued support. It means so, so very much. I'll catch up with y'all next time here at Yadda Space.
Hey, welcome friends to Yadda Space. I'm Yadda here, let's set the pace. This is a rewatch podcast, so let's begin. Orange is the new black is where we dive in. Tasty's wisdom sets the tone. Us higher. Spoilers everywhere, so be warned. Super fast, please come aboard. Susan's special mind, build all these ideas. Because they think that everything's truly as it is. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Let's kitchen rules the game. She keeps the flame. Alaida's hustle never quits. Looks the tales are gems every bit. Every episode we'll discuss. Even the scenes that made us cuss. So for me, join the spree. I try